I'm going to get a little selfish because you're tapping into a lot of different things that I want to know more about. And over the last 3 years, people have started to ask me to give speeches,
Hmm.
and I've done them. I've
Hmm.
got paid for them, and it's a world that I knew nothing about.
Hmm.
I started to find out about speakers bureaus and how they place people and all those types of things. If someone wants to have a career as a speaker, you have to be successful, you have to have something to talk about.
Hmm.
What would be your advice in how to become a prolific speaker? Not only giving good speeches, but getting to be able to speak.
Yeah, so there's two parts about that that jump out that are kind of like the whole thing. The first one is like practice, practice, practice. I mean, it's just like if you've ever read the book, it was Outliers by Malcolm Gladwell. He talked about that rule of 10,000 hours, and that this famous story is how the Beatles, when they came to America, and you see that footage of the Ed Sullivan Show, they're singing, the audience is going crazy, and they're completely relaxed. Like, how does that happen? How it happens is they went to Germany and did all these live shows, 1,000 live shows in Germany before they came to America, right? So people don't understand, like, it looked easy. It wasn't easy. It just appeared to because they had so many hours in. And so if you want to be a speaker, man, you got to speak. You got to speak all the time, everywhere you can. And I've had years of my life, I gave a lot of speeches and years of life that I didn't. And when I had time that I didn't, and I wanted to get back into it, I just, everywhere I could, I volunteered to speak. And even if it's like, if say I'm in a big group, 100 people, and there's a speaker and they're like, "Do you have any questions?" I'd be like, "I do." And I would just like ask a question to try to get my confidence back up, because if you're not in the rhythm, it's just like anything else in life. I mean, ask Steph Curry about shooting 3 pointers, right? Like, you have got to keep. So you got to get as many reps as possible. I got a friend of mine named John Rivers, and he told me, and he's a business guy, he's a Christian guy, and he said that anytime anyone asks him to come someplace and share his faith, if he's available, he says yes for free. And I was like, that's cool. And so I've had a bit of that mentality too, that like if it's a nonprofit and they want a speaker and I'm available, I just say yes. And I think that's good because, again, I'm out there. It's good for me. It's good for them. Hopefully there's that rhythm. So there's that. The second part, as far as being paid, man, all of business is a grind, all of it, everywhere, all the time. I have known people that made 40,000 a year. I know people make $400,000 a year. I know people that make 4 million a year. I don't know anybody that makes over $100,000 a year that doesn't grind all the time. I just don't. Like, I think some people think, oh man, I work 9 to 5 and I make 40,000. Wouldn't it be great to make 400? I'm like, you make 400? You're working 12 hours a day, 14 hours a day, 6 days a week, probably Sunday too. Even if you go on vacation. I had a guy one time and he said, I heard that some people, when they go on vacations, they bring their laptops and take their cell phones with them. I'm like, you don't? Like, I don't know what you're talking about. I had times where I used to do this thing on Thanksgiving morning. I'd get up early and I would send an email to certain people. Just, I mixed up every year, and I'd say, hey, I'm being thankful. I want to thank to you what you're doing. If they're a CEO, if they're a CEO, it could be a Fortune 500 company. I email them Thanksgiving morning. They email back. They email back Christmas Day. They work, right? So giving a speech is awesome. It's funny. It's great giving a speech. And then once you get done, you got to deal with kind of crazy people ask you crazy questions, and people. That's part of it too. I know a pastor one time. He got in this thing where he would give his sermon, then walk back into a green room, and then not come back out to the next service, and then come back out. And his career did not end well. I'm gonna tell you that, it did not end well. And I think part of it was like when you remove yourself from the gritty part of it, you're not dealing with the reality, right? My dad, as a pastor, he would always walk to the back of the congregation, and when you walked out, he should have raised his hand. I remember him. I remember being a kid and him saying, "This dude said something so crazy." Well, sometimes people say things of you that are kind of crazy or weird. Sometimes they're helpful, right? Because they'll say something like, oh, you make weird hand gestures, or oh, you reference this, you reference that. Like, I remember one time I referenced Elvis, and somebody walking out was like, oh man, Elvis was a racist. Don't ever say Elvis, he was a racist. And I was like, what? And I looked it up. That's actually a rumor. It's not true, but people believe it to be true, right? So I was like, huh. So like I'll switch up jokes. Like there's sometimes I'll say a joke. It's funny in my head, but then it doesn't hit well with some audience or whatever. But you got to know. Or sometimes something comes across offensive. You didn't mean to be offensive, but like, so you got to be able to take a lot of feedback. But if you want to be successful at it, man, you got to grind it. I mean, it's not my full-time job. I've got paid to do it. I like doing it. I'll do it again. I get a lot out of it. But if you want to do it. It's a legit pounding it hard all the time thing. Super hard.
That's how you know if someone's really the truth, if they talk about how hard it is and if it's a grind. If people don't talk about it as a grind, I know you're not in it for real.